She's the lucky recipient of 2 whale-watching tickets. Care of Dolphin Safari. Congratulations. And really well done. We thought it was very poignant, heartfelt, and we thought that it had a great message to say to the world in a very soft and very beautiful way. More beautiful than what I can adequately express at this moment. Okay, so at this point we'd like to call up the entire panel, whoever's left. I'm really sorry it's such a late night, but we had some amazing things that we wanted to all share with you. Everybody can just go ahead and grab a seat and introduce yourself, and we can get going. If anybody has any questions, this is a great time to ask very important questions to the people that are actually on the forefront of conservation, education. Justin, come join us. Troy, where's Troy? Paging Troy Page. No. Now we have too many seats. Please join us. Okay, so please don't be shy. Ask any questions and step right up to the microphone. It's a lot of footage that you've seen today. I'm sure that there's some questions that you could ask about the journeys. The rest of these people have been on here on the panel. No? Anyone? Panel? Fantastic. Thank you, Jim Duff. Sorry, is the mic on? Here. This one's live.
So giant clams. There's a lot of species out there that are in need. I'm not a specialist on that specific species. You have anything to weigh in on that? Giant clams? So our activists work to get behind the scenes into some of these shops in China that have the ones that are on the top of the list of the things that should not be out there. And from seeing the footage, and Heather, who was there on the ground with the undercover button cams, can tell you it's a dirty, dark place where they're not proud of what they're doing. Things are changing, though. The demand in China is going down. Shark fin sales are down 50%. Which is amazing. It's a step. Let's hope the same thing continues to happen for captive whales and dolphins. And I'll let Heather weigh in a little bit about the undercover China work.
Yeah, one thing that we actually do mention in the film is that you do have to go to the back rooms to see a lot of the really shocking things, but it's really an overt trade. You walk into any market on any street corner in Hong Kong or anywhere in mainland China, and you're going to see bags of endangered species. It's unfortunate because what we are essentially doing, our track record has been that it's essentially the extinction trade. We drive a species down to the point where it's even more valuable on the marketplace for us. And that's actually to benefit to these people in some ways, which is devastating. But then once the stocks are so low that they can't find them anymore, they just move on and put something else into the pipeline. And unfortunately, that's what we're seeing right now with manta rays. A lot of what we were doing for racing extinction was shark fin, and we went over to investigate shark fin, and what we found is that manta rays are now being hunted to near extinction for their gills. Their wings can't be used for shark fin soup. Nothing else on this animal really is usable. The meat is pungent. So the gills are used in sort of traditional Chinese remedies. It was one very small town that it was we have actually a Chinese medicine doctor weigh in on this, and he specifically says this is folklore, essentially. But they needed something to move into the pipeline. So these animals, they're like whales in a lot of ways. They produce, in terms of reproduction, they produce one pup about every 2 to 3 years. This is not a sustainable species to be hunting. So I know this doesn't answer your clam question, but there are a lot of species that we need to be concerned about. And it's not just the manta rays that are magnificent and huge. It's everything. You know, little seahorses. You know, everything is under threat.
I think what bothered me was they're so old to get to that size.
Right.
They can't move. They're not like moving through anything. They're just sitting there waiting to take.
Yeah, that's the epitome of exploitation, and that's what we're trying to expose and fight.
Right.
I have a question. I saw on Rainbow Berry's website. I'm sorry. It's just it seems like there's so few.
We're live streaming, so everybody needs to be on a mic so that the people across the globe can hear us. Hi, everybody in the UK.
Mates in the UK. I saw on Rick O'Barry's website some very detailed resources of what we can do. Japanese officials we could write to, ways that we can boycott Japanese products. And one of the things I struggle with every time I have these defining moments that are both tragic and yet inspiring to do something about them is I don't know those specific resources. And I think he did a great job of outlining, here's who you write to, here's the email address, you know, even some content that you can write to them. And I'm wondering, is there a resource where all of you are combining all of this incredible information to help people just, everybody has to work and go to their daily lives and do this as a passion and what was said in the film, a give back to these incredible creatures, and it's hard to do without knowing where to get those details, and I'm just curious if you can help us with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Racing Extinction, it's a movement. It's not just a film. We're trying to start a movement where we give people the tools and the opportunities to make an impact if they want to, on whatever issue means the most to them. And we are partnering up with other nonprofits and NGOs and educational platforms to make it the biggest mission we can. So we'd love to have Ocean Walls and the Transparency Project join us and make this as big as possible. And it all starts with everyday people like you in this room and everyone out there on the live stream coming together and really taking whatever steps you can to make a difference. And if that means, you know, writing a letter to a company that is selling manta ray gills under a fake medicinal purpose, do that. If you care about sending up clean energy in your area, we'll give you the tools to do that. It's really a personal toolkit, and that's what Racing Extinction is all about. And we hope you all join it. Thank you. Any other questions? Yeah, come on up to the mic.
I have a question for the filmmakers. How do you think is the best way to use the medium of film to raise awareness and inspire people to change? How do we get it in front of people? I mean, there's so much passion in our movement, and sometimes we feel like only the choir is hearing the message. How do we make our films more effective and get a broader reach?
So, you know, from the surf rat hippie perspective, use any tool you can, which is a lot about what Surfers for Cetaceans and the Transparency Voyage is about. Is Leslie, you're a filmmaker. Use those tools, continue to use those tools, continue to use your relationships, develop new relationships, hook up with local teachers, find ways to get the kids involved, paint, make music, just be passionate. And I've got a group of friends that on New Year's Day, we do a polar bear plunge. where we bring all the families down and the kids down, and we drive everyone into a nice chilly ocean. But before we do that, we talk about one issue, whether it be what you can do to protect polar bears, or what you can do to protect the grays and the blues off this coast, or what you can do to protect that beach and clean up that storm drain, because it all affects those creatures. Troy and I are, as filmmakers and ambassadors for Surfers for Cetaceans, you know, the one of the biggest thing for us is that to sort of tap into those local communities. And how do you do that? Well, we need friends there. So, you know, how do we you know, it's the footwork of what the crews are doing, and finding different ways to sort of inspire. And hope that's a good tool for you to be able to change. We get questions like that. How do I help? Well, what skills do you have? That's how you help. If you're a graphic artist, call your local nonprofit that you're inspired about. Say, hey, I want to help you out. I've got these skills. I can do this. I'm a bookkeeper. Our group is, you know, we're very grassroots, so we're always looking for those little things. So there's a lot of ways you can lend your talents as just a human being to these causes that you're passionate about, and you just have to sort of look inside yourself. And I think you see that with the movement that sort of the Cove and all of these projects have done. Is that, look at all these kids out there. Look at all these high school kids that are making these projects and telling their parents, no, you're not. I'm not going to SeaWorld. You know, that's a future. So there's a lot of ways. Use your skills and tap the kids in.
Hey, I just want to add really quick also that what I think was so beautiful about your film was that you paired the story and the imagery and the beautiful filmmaking with music in a way that I feel like I'd never seen before, and that really touched me. That was so powerful, and like I think there's something about film and the power to show. The images are so beautiful, especially if you can show people in a way they've never seen it before. And that's where ocean walls, for example, you know, bringing them to the concrete jungle. You know, no one's ever seen that, you know, a whale on the side of the building. So it's all of these are tools that allow us to fall more in love. And then when you threaten something that somebody loves, that is when you galvanize people. And that's what we're trying to do. So be creative, you know, I think about the way that you do it as well.
There isn't one way to get things done. Think outside the box, be creative, take risks. Everyone who's changed the world has failed on the way to get there, so have fun doing it.
Sorry? Yes. Sure. So some of you may know me from Blackfish, and I had many years in the captive industry, and I left the captive industry. And on that journey, I decided, how can I motivate people? Because I saw millions of people come to my shows and thousands of people get educated, and obviously we didn't save the orcas in the wild. So I decided, how can we bring the animals into different light, and hooked up with some amazing organizations around the world that have amazing encounters with these animals, and found a shopping center in Tillicum's hometown of Victoria, and pitched the idea to them, and they loved it. And they have over 5 million visits a year come through the mall. So every day they have ocean content that they go through it, and we're going to expand. So we were invited to here to see what the flavor of it would be, and we hooked up with some amazing organizations, and thank all of the community for supporting the vision. And this is a way to get the mass to talk about animals while they're shopping. So while they have their Starbucks, and it's working. The people in the shopping centers are talking about the oceans. When they walk by, you hear the stories. They get reminded of them. We're doing monthly talks, and as the animation shows, you know, we can't empty the tanks if we tell the corporate world what they can change to. And with amazing footage like all you guys are doing, you know, I had the vision, but it's people like yourselves that are doing amazing things in the water that's going to make it work. So we're excited, and we're going to expand, and we're going to travel, and we're going to bring the ocean like you've never seen it, and highlight it the way it should be. I have a quick question. For the surfers, I was curious, surfers are a different crowd. And are you sort of the outcast of the surf world, or is the surf world sort of embracing you and saying, thank God someone's doing something we want to join you guys too?
Ironically, when I first met Dave Rostovich, I worked on a project called Minds in the Water, which is how we originally met Louis and the OPS crew. And we went to Japan, and Dave Rostovich's main sponsor is Billabong. And we got a call from Billabong. And they said, what are you doing? What are you guys there for? Because the Yakuza has gone to the head of Billabong Japan and said, you're not involved with this guy, right? And it was an eye-opener, but Dave was able to talk to Billabong Global and say, look, this is who I am. This is what I need to do, and it's all peaceful. And they eventually said to Japan, Billabong Japan, hey, look, we support this. Now, were they supported overtly and with advertising? No, but they're not going to do something like that. What's become of that is you do have a group of people who just blow off the free surfing, kind of free thinking community a little bit, but those are all people that grew up in urban areas. But like what you saw in Transparency, which I'm really proud of, is you saw part of the way we got it done was we had the company Etnies give us the big black bus. That's a shoe company. And then another one of the brands that support surfing, Sanuk Shoes, also threw their RV in for a 26-day trip. Those are two competing action sports shoe companies. Yes. So they come around, but at first they're a little hands off, So from that perspective, it's felt real good to sort of change that. And but it's a battle. I mean, Dave gets a lot of heat for what he's done, but he's willing to take it because it's important to him. Definitely. I truly think. I think what we've done has been really on the tails of what OPS and then what Blackfish also did for this. It's sort of, our community loves the ocean, is passionate about the ocean, but these two films touch the world, and that has allowed us to sort of broaden our reach as well. So it's been like an amazing ride of that's what I sort of talked about early on, was a collaboration of people and brands and competing filmmakers. Louis and I sat down and we were like, okay, we're both making films and we're both here, and we shared footage. And that was great, fantastic for me. He was generous enough to say, look, any way we can help, and we wanted to lend our support too. So those collaborations and that just sort of passion, I think, sort of seeps into different people. So. But I did want to, because Troy's very quiet, I did want to, he told me a little story earlier about coming out on a little whale watching trip with Trevor. And I want you to tell them the reaction that you got when you went out. Tell them what you did and how that went, please. Because I thought that was super cool.
He was referring to, I went on a whale watching trip out here and I just brought a didgeridoo like I was playing earlier. And one of those super pods was jumping in the video. And they're all around, so I just started playing off the bow of the boat, and they were jumping up into the. It was just a neat experience. It was a fun one.
I said, "What did those tourists think when you put that didgeridoo out there and just tapped into those creatures?" And that was just that one was more to hey, what can you do? Well, Troy makes those didgeridoos. Those are passion projects for him. He's self-taught, and the first time we went to Australia, he brought the didgeridoo, and the entire crew was blown away that an American could play and would even play anything, and it was completely different. And so he's lent his talent to our group, as well as a story like that where he's actually using sound to tap into the creatures that we love so much, and they probably love that moment too. I thought that was really neat. Any others?
So first, thank you because, sorry, my voice is completely gone, but thank you because for somebody who's kind of trying to find their own, ironically, voice, in filmmaking and documentary making. I thought that whole, everybody was saying already, the combination of music and the surfing approach, etc., to tell that bigger story was very impressive, I thought. And on that level, since we're talking, we're seeing a lot of China and Japan in these movies. I saw some documentary about sharks, and one of the countries that they were talking about was Costa Rica, actually, which, officially is this great ecotourism paradise. And can you talk a little bit about, that country and just in general, these more like hidden problems that exist?
There's a term out there we like to use called greenwashing, where a country like Costa Rica is known as this destination getaway and go. Don't ever go to Costa Rica. That's a place that is destroying their habitats and hurting the oceans. They're absolutely killing sharks, they're killing dolphins, they're killing a ton of creatures. But those aren't the stories that are getting out there. So the best thing I can tell you is when you're choosing to go on vacation is use your money wisely, be a smart consumer, do the research, and find out how you can support sustainable ecotourism instead of a country that is killing and exploiting animals and driving them to extinction.
Speaking of hidden issues, I think Louis would be disappointed in us if we didn't mention that one of the biggest impacts that we all can have as individuals is to change our diet. And you can save species 3 times a day by being conscious about what you're eating and eating lower on the food chain and more plant-based. Agriculture, specifically cattle, is responsible for actually twice as much greenhouse gas emissions as the entire transportation sector globally. Huge impact. And then this carbon dioxide and methane that's going into the atmosphere is diffusing into the oceans to bring it back home to all of us, and is making them acidic. Huge problem. So that's really the fundamental basis of the mass extinction event that we are approaching right now, and you'll see it more in racing extinction. But yeah, we have an impact. And not to mention food, anything that you buy. Every time you put money down on something, you are voting. You do have a voice because we live in a consumer society, and if you don't know where that product's coming from or what the footprint is, find out. Think about it. Every time you buy something, think about reusable, single-use plastics. Completely irrational, really, and a huge impact on the oceans and everything else. So, hidden impacts. That's one of them.
Yeah. And do your research. When Heather says you can save the planet by choosing to convert to a plant-based diet, all protein originally comes from plants. So when you're eating a non-plant-based diet, you're eating inefficiently. So make smart choices. You don't have to do it overnight. Try to transition slowly and have fun with it. Get creative. Come on up. Next question.
Hi. Is this working? Oh, yeah. Hi. I'm from Norway. And on the subject of... yeah, thank you. There we go. On the subject of diets, us Norwegians are growing ever more fond of our whales, especially the killer whales. Anyone can dive with them at any time, and they're becoming more and more popular in the news. But we are also infamous in some ways for our whaling. Us Norwegians hunt the minke whale, which I'm sure a lot of people are aware of. And a lot of arguments that are pro for the hunting of the minke whale is that they say that the minke whale population is stable and healthy. And they feel that by cutting down on the minke whale population, they will also enable other rarer species like the right whale and the bowhead whale that feed upon the same krill as the minke whale. It'll allow them to expand in population. And I'm also wondering about how the whaling in Norway is actually done, and And what do you have to say about it? Because I have no knowledge actually about whales apart from that whales are sold in every convenience store in Norway. I mean, you can buy it at any place. Thank you.
I think what's most important is any trade's a trade, and you have to get to the root of the source, which is the economical benefit. And until countries like Norway continue to do amazing things like you're doing with the orcas and the tourist trade that's starting with one of the most unbelievable swims in the world with whales, the change is going to be slow. So I think we have to focus on the good that countries like Norway is doing and support the hunting communities. Addy Gill, I've had a long conversation with him once about his time in Faroe Islands. And he said all he does is take the time to talk with the hunters and explain his position and understand theirs. And huge changes happen. And I've worked in many countries with animal collectors, and they will change. They will stop killing animals. They may go to trade them, but at least they stop to kill them. And it's a matter of keep moving forward. So I actually have a good sense of the world changing their ideas, and more people are understanding the whaling quotas is more hogwash than scientific based, and I think the change is going to occur.
So with respect specifically to the krill issue, we are decimating krill populations, for one. We do actually fish for them down in the Antarctica. So we have whole populations down in Antarctica that are suffering because there's no krill as well. Let's look at the real issue, which is us and our actions, for one. And I mean, the Japanese, at the IWC meetings, et cetera, for years, they've used this argument that, the dolphins and whales are eating all of the fish. But really, we're eating all of the fish. So the bottom line is that's what's behind that argument. It's sort of a scapegoat for us to get around, like what makes us uncomfortable, which is our impact. So it's definitely not the minke whales that are leading to bowheads being endangered. So I specifically wanted to comment on that. I'm not really that familiar with specifically the ships and the fleets that they have in Norway, in terms of your question of how they're harvested. But maybe you do.
Yeah, we've got the information about all the whaling countries, and for the sake of time tonight, I'm happy to connect with you outside of this and give you some more information. And it's great you're interested. Youth of America. Any final questions before we close out Phinfest? Yeah, thank you to Maral, the organizer, for everyone else in the panel, and most importantly, all the participants. This has been an inspiring and humbling weekend to be around such incredible, passionate people.
Thank you to the entire panel. You guys are amazing. Each and every one of you are an incredible contribution to this movement. And I'm just very flattered and thrilled that you guys even took the time out to come down, come across, come over from all different parts. Chris is from Canada, and we have different parts of the country, from Colorado all the way down to San Diego and LA. But thank you so much. I want to especially thank MVT Productions for live streaming, for all of the beautiful lighting and production value, and Neptune Productions for supplying all the equipment. They have fully sponsored this entire event, and we could never, ever, ever, ever repay you. Thank you so much. And thank you for all of the other sponsors as well. Thank you, guys. Good night. Phinfest out.